Hey, what's going on, champs? I'm Aaron Deliosa. Welcome to an Immigrant's Life podcast, my podcast about immigrants and immigration and everything in between. Thank you for listening and downloading the show, and thank you for supporting my dad.
Welcome back, Immigrant Nation. Another week, another new episode. There goes the first week of January 2023. How are you? How's your New Year's resolution? You still sticking with it? I hope you are. You made that contract to yourself. You signed that paper, at least on your mind, and I hope you're sticking with it. It's okay to pause. You don't have to kill yourself all the time, but you gotta keep on continuing. Because it's better for you to know that you tried than to feel pain and know that you quit on yourself. So take it easy on yourself, rest if you need to, but you gotta keep on going forward. Anyways, I wanna thank you for joining us, and especially the old listeners for listening every week. Thank you for supporting as always. If you are new here, welcome. I hope you like what you're hearing, and I hope that you would subscribe. We are available on all podcasting platforms, even on YouTube. Also, if you or someone you know wants to be a guest on the podcast, send me a message on our social media accounts at An Immigrant's Life. You can also email us at animigranslife@yahoo.com. That's the biz. Now, let's talk about the episode. After living in a hustle mentality, our guest this week learned to live his life one day at a time through his immigration journey. Champs, this one's a good one, and I know you're gonna enjoy it. So let's not waste more time. So, without further ado, let's get into the show. Isa, dalawa, tatlo. Today's guest is a photographer and a techpreneur. He's dedicated to capture moments perfectly as he believes that images communicate louder than words. Everyone, please welcome Femi Oso. How you doing, my man?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me today. Thank you I'm really looking forward to an amazing conversation on this podcast.
You're too kind. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate that. I know you're a busy man, and you still agreed to, come on the podcast and have a conversation.
Thanks.
Why don't you tell the Immigrant Nation where they can reach you, or if you want to promote anything before we get into it?
Yeah, for sure. You can reach me on Instagram at Femi Oso_. Also on my website, femioshophotography.com. And also you can send me a mail at info@femioshophotography.com. So those are the avenues to reach me. And basically, in case you want to book any of our services, which I'm going to be talking about later on as well. So yeah, feel free to holler at me.
Definitely. Your photographies are amazing, dude.
Thank
They're
you so
beautiful.
much. Thank you.
Before we start talking about the photography, I want to get some background on you.
Right.
Originally from Lagos, Nigeria. What was it like for you to grow up in Lagos?
Yeah, I actually grew up in another part of Nigeria, a southwestern part. They call it Ekiti State. But shortly after I finished my studies in college and I went to university. So after that, that was when I moved to Lagos, and I lived in Lagos for a couple of years. But Lagos is a very wonderful city. It's a city of dreams where dreams come true, and is every hustler's city. So basically, Lagos don't sleep, right? 24/7, there's always something going on everywhere in Lagos. So it's a pretty bubbly city. And, and one thing that we say, back from Lagos is that if you're able to make it in Lagos, you can make it anywhere in the world. And that's true.
100%. You know when that song, that New York, New York?
Right.
If you can make it New York, yo, take it easy.
Yeah.
New York is a layup for other people.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say Lagos is a very wonderful city where you just got to keep the work going on. And there is chance and opportunity for everyone to become whoever they want to become. But it's a hustler city. Yeah.
Definitely. You mentioned that you grew up in a different part of Nigeria. Was it
Yes.
in a rural area?
It's not a rural area, but it's a growing city as well.
Hmm.
It's from the southwestern part of Nigeria, and they call it Ekiti State. And it's not very far from Lagos as well. It's like a couple of hours from Lagos.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Just including traffic?
yes, including traffic, of course. Yes, yes.
I love watching like Nigerian documentaries. It's just the, for the lack of a better word, it's like the craziness of it. You know, like you'll see
Yeah.
a car and they'll put so much stuff on top of the
Yes,
car.
yes, yes. And like Lagos is such an interesting city. There's always good energy, good vibes, there are things to do. For example, December period in Lagos, they call it Dirty December, right?
Hmm.
And the concept of Dirty December is that that's when, shows are happening in Lagos, like concerts here and there, different artists are performing, different church activities, different musicians from the secular, like and everything like things are as I'm speaking to you right now, things are going on in Lagos this time because it feels like a lot of folks come from different parts of the world, to just go to Lagos to celebrate that December, just to have time with the family. So things are, really bubbly at this time of the year in Lagos as well.
So you're homesick right now?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
That's the worst when you go online and go on social media and you see family and friends posting like they're having
Yes.
fun. Like, God damn it!
Yes. Yes.
You know, you went to Lagos to study. You said, what did you study?
Yeah, so for my bachelor's, I studied mathematics from another state. They call it Osun State, and from Obafemi Awolowo University, one of the notable universities in Nigeria. Then for my bachelor's, then for my master's, I did computer science in University of Lagos. So and it was pretty fun.
How
Yeah.
so?
Yeah, fun in the sense that studying in that part of the world where we're from, it's a different ball game because you got to really study hard, really pay attention to whatever you're being taught in class, of course. So it takes and coupled with the fact that there's a lot going on in terms of activity, so it's easy to be distracted, but you just got to keep it moving. So that's what makes it interesting. In the middle of the chaos, you just got to make it work.
Yeah, definitely the word chaos
Yeah,
for the good and the bad.
exactly. Yeah.
Your family, socially, economically, status, like, are they doing well? Were you a scholarship?
I wasn't on scholarship. It was family. Thankfully, everyone is doing pretty cool. So it was funded by my family. My studies. So yeah.
Did you always want to do math and sciences, or was there other choices that you
That's a
wanted
good
to do?
That's a good question. Actually, I wanted to study electrical electronics engineering when I was going to university, but at some point in my journey, I wasn't getting what I wanted, and I remember that time when I was just praying to God for direction and to really know exactly what I was going to do in the university. It's a long story, but God came through, and I got admitted into mathematics, and I knew that it was because that was what God wanted me to go for. So I didn't even bother changing into electrical electronics. I just stuck to mathematics, even though my folks at some point wanted me to go into medical field, right? But I'm not so much comfortable with life, like handling people's like real life, like literally handling people's health. I feel it's better for me if I handle gadgets, right? So I thought,
Yeah.
no, I can't go into that. But I studied mathematics, pretty interesting stuff for 4 years in the university. Then after that, I figured out, okay, what's next? I don't want to be a teacher, right? And I don't want to be, because my passion is beyond the classroom, right? So I thought, I think I would like to apply what I learned in the university for my bachelor's to something out there. And what is pretty close to that is either financial mathematics, which would make me maybe a finance guy in the New York, like probably I'll probably move to New York, working with the stock exchange and whatnot. or just go into the other part of computing, which I've always had passion for gadgets and computer and stuff. So I gave it a shot. I did the master's in computer science, and thankfully it was rewarding as well.
Congratulations. Where did the passion for gadgets came from?
Yeah, pretty much. I think I'm just a very naturally speaking, like naturally, I'm very curious and passionate about how things work, right? Like if I like what exactly is behind the technology that makes a phone work. Like, I'm a curious person naturally, right? So that's what fuels my passion to want to ask those questions about, how does gadget works, what makes system work, not just what I see on the surface, but what is beneath, what is behind, whatever it is, but that's powering our technology. So that was what, that's what fueled my passion into going further into computer science. And also just being able to apply because, naturally speaking, most programmers have good foundation in mathematics. Ideally, if you want to be a good programmer, you should know a little bit of math, some logic, some algebra, and whatnot. So it just felt it was just a natural, pull towards computer science based on those different factors.
Were you the type of kid that tried to like open up the gadgets when you were younger to
Yep,
figure it out?
that's me right there.
How much trouble you got in?
Yep, couple. Just trying to see what is behind the TV, back in the day, those old school television where you have to pull, the stuff like you're pulling a wardrobe, just loosening the bolt at the back to try to see what exactly is behind the screen. So I got into trouble a couple of times doing that.
Because me too, I was a curious kid. One time I tried to open it. You know those Game and Watch?
Right, right, right.
I tried to open them. I couldn't put them together.
Right. Oh, shoot.
I got in trouble. And then one time I had this like mini Sony piano, not piano, like
Right.
organ. I don't know why I did this. I split the wires and then I put two plugs on him.
Oh, shoot.
Exactly.
Not a good idea.
I plug it in. Boom.
Oh. Oh,
Mom came home and you know what happened after.
that's crazy. Yeah.
So after you finished your master, did you stay in Lagos? Did you work? What did you do?
Yeah, after I finished my master's, I stayed back in Lagos and I actually when I was wrapping up when I actually started working before I started my master's, right? So after my bachelor's degree, then I started working. So it was while I was working that I went to do my master's in computer science. So I was literally doing a part-time master's degree and I was also working. So it was pretty much going to classes every weekend just to get lectures. And that lasted for 2 years. It took a while. And yeah, so I was doing both at the same time.
Why did you decide to work? Was it because you wanted to earn some money? I know you said that, the family is doing well anyway, so it feels like you don't have to send them money.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, I was the reason is that I was already working, and I was like, okay, do I just want to keep on working, or do I want to still proceed with the academic part? Because I was in IT already, right? And like I said, I didn't want to settle for just bachelor's, right? So I said, okay, it's a great idea to just start the master's, So, but of course, the family is good, and I think some part of the fee from work, of course, just also making sure I'm also responsible to fund some aspects of the education as well. So yeah.
And then after masters, you went full time, working full time for the company.
Yeah, I was working full time for the company, right? But
Oh, okay.
it was just weekends that I was doing my masters. So nothing was impacting, like the work wasn't impacting the masters and vice versa, right?
And what were you
Because
doing?
yeah, I've always been in tech. So pretty much I was working as a technical specialist at some point for the organization where I worked, and pretty much that would involve is just doing some demos, some proof of technology, proof of concept for customers in different technology space like cloud, analytics, data, artificial intelligence, and whatnot. So I pretty much started off putting my feet in different parts of tech when I started off, and that really paid off.
So you were doing all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you still decided to move to Winnipeg.
Yeah, good question. Yeah,
What
that's that.
happened there?
Yeah, so I think there is one philosophy that I sort of have, or rather one mindset that I have, is that regardless of where we are in the world, there's always room for improvements to do better, right? Even though things were looking pretty promising and looking good, I still felt that I'm a citizen of the world, right? And I would really like to explore different parts of the world. And I think that was when the dream to relocate to Canada started. And I said, okay, we're here, things are going pretty well, but we can do more, right? We can explore different parts of the world and see how things are done as well. So that was what fueled my, curiosity to want to relocate to Canada specifically, and to Manitoba, right? And it feels like going from two different parts of the world, because you know Lagos is known for the hustling and bustling and the heat. It's pretty much warmer in Lagos. And now coming to Winnipeg, that is extremely cold and is very quiet. So it's like two different parts. They are like two conflicting environment. But it really, I would say, it's been amazing living here for like 3 years now, 3 years plus. It's been wonderful living in Winnipeg, except for the cold, though.
It's always a cold.
Yeah.
You know, like I talk about this on the podcast all the time. That I live in Quebec, Montreal,
Oh,
and it gets cold here too. Not compared to Winnipeg, obviously.
right.
And sometimes when the snow is so heavy and it's on top of your car and just clearing it up. And I
Yeah.
always tell myself, I have this mantra of it's either this or starvation.
Yeah. You got to choose one now.
And guess what I choose?
Right. That.
Yeah, always. But why did you choose Winnipeg?
So yeah, I got some of my folks here already. That have been here for a long time. So it's just natural for me to want to come here first and settle here. And so my plan was just to come and settle and see how things are before I maybe leave. But it's the third year now, and I'm having a good time so far. So so that's why I moved here.
You said folks, is that your parents or just family members?
Family members.
Where's mom and dad?
Oh, they are based in Nigeria at the moment.
They're not planning to move?
Yeah, just visit here and there. Yeah.
It's still cold.
Yeah, still it's too cold.
And they like you said, the hustle and bustle.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it happened to us, our family, a few years ago when they were thinking of bringing my grandma here.
Right.
And I said, I voted no to that because I know her. She
Right.
wants she wants the neighbor, the gossip and all that stuff. She wants the craziness.
Yeah.
Then coming here, it's quiet. She's just going to get depressed,
Yeah, true that. True
you
that.
know. And they're doing well, like you said, your parents, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What age when did you move?
I moved. I think I marked my 30th birthday here. In yeah, I moved in. Yeah, I moved at just few months to, I think, few days to clock in 30. That was when I moved here.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you're like a man.
Yes, sir.
You
Yes,
know,
sir.
how hard was that?
I think for me, it was pretty tough too, I would say, because, coming from Lagos where I had built connections and friends and different folks and, colleagues and everyone. So it almost feels like, okay, I'm leaving these guys. But of course, I just had to look at the bigger picture to say, okay, I'm still gonna make new friends where I'm going, and it's not like I'm a kind of person that I don't burn bridges. So regardless of where I'm at, I still try to keep in touch with some of my folks back home. So at the end of the day, we just got to do what we got to do, right? So
Definitely. When you got to Winnipeg, did you have a job already or you were planning to look for a job?
yeah, I didn't have a job coming in. Just said, okay, we'll just hit the ground running and planning to just applying for jobs, doing interviews. So, but I didn't have a ready job. It wasn't like there was something already waiting for me here, but it was until I got here that I got job as well.
How was that experience?
Yeah, it was pretty. I wouldn't say it was fun. It wasn't fun, but I think one thing that I found very interesting was that I have friends that are very supportive, and my family, my folks that I said have been here before, just getting that support from them was very easy, made it easier in settling in, and also just speaking with people that have gone ahead, that have been here much longer. They were able to give the right advice in terms of, okay, this is how to work on your resume, for the interviews. These are the things you have to prepare for interviews, because coming from a different culture, you just got to make sure that I've been positioned rightly for the culture here, so that in my interviews, in my job applications, I'm able to speak the right language, just to make sure I'm fit culturally as well. I think that was something that I had to blend into, and yeah, I think with that, he made it easier to really settle in, terms of the job and other things.
Yeah, I like what you said about the resume because,
Yeah.
I don't know in Nigeria, but back home they even put the age and the
Yes, date
gender,
of birth. Yes, sir.
or like the things that you like doing.
Yeah, hobbies.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, so, living here for a while now, I know a little bit of like resume and everything. So every time somebody comes in a family or whatever, I
Yeah.
try to help them with that because,
Yeah.
and it's funny because they write it how it's from back home. And I
Right.
said, no, 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 you don't have to put the age. And they're like, well, how would they know that I'm my age? I'm like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're very lucky that you had family and friends there.
Yeah, thankfully. Yeah.
What have you learned about yourself from being an immigrant?
So what I've learned is that being an immigrant, yeah, I think the first thing that I realized is that you gotta, it's a thing of the mindset. You gotta have a sense of ownership as well, and ownership in a sense that knowing that even though you're new in a country, but you gotta be able to call the country your home as well, not just say their country, right? But because it is when you see yourself as a stakeholder, as someone that is going to contribute to the success of the community and society, that's when you can begin to think of how to make impact in the society, right? Because if you're like if I'm like saying, okay, that's their community, Winnipeg is their home, right? Then it's gonna be difficult for me to embrace everything the city holds for me, in terms of everything, you know. But if I'm able to have that mindset, okay, Winnipeg is my place, is my city, right? Then it brings about the mindset of inclusion for me. And that's the only way I can make change in the community. So I believe that's mindset has to change, for immigrants coming in to know that where they're going, they are not strangers. They may be new in the city, but they got to be able to find that place to learn about the community, settle in pretty well. No rush. I learned that also. You don't rush in Canada, right? You got to take your time because Canada is a place where you got to be able to learn. You got to be able to take your time and really blending in the society. Just be a blessing to others around you.
Beautiful. I love that you said no rush because there are like here is like there are actual steps and it actually works.
Yes, exactly. Because coming from Lagos, Lagos is a city. It's fast paced. Gotta do it's you gotta be up and running. You gotta be very fast in Lagos, right? That even tells when you're driving in Lagos. Oh boy, you gotta be like very, you know. So those were the things that I had to drop to say, okay, Femi, you gotta take it easy. One day, one thing I tell my friends, one of my mantra is that I take life one day at a time. I I don't sweat big stuff. I just take it one day at a time. We're done today. We pick it up again tomorrow. We just take it one day at a time. Yeah.
That's
So
beautiful. Yeah.
yeah.
So what did you use to teach yourself not to rush and take your time?
Yeah, I think having just listening to people that have been around, and also having a first time experience of when I started work, and I was pretty much I wanted to do everything, on the first day. And I remember my boss telling me to take things easy, to really be calm because, just prioritizing quality work over just any delivery work. Like the work has to be a good, just put it in the best work in. And you can only put the best in when you're pretty much relaxed. And I'm not saying relaxed in terms of taking things with levity, but relaxed in terms of just being calm to really pay attention to details. So I learned that from the folks that have been that have gone out, because I also have friends that have been here that came here before me. So I learned from them as well, and also from my own hands, first-hand experience, doing my first job here.
Definitely. Was there a moment in your immigration experience that you had like a culture shock moment? You were like, oh, I am not in Lagos anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I think I remember one vividly that came that is very fresh. Um, Back home, when you wake up in the morning and you probably like you get to work, and in Lagos or in Nigeria, you can ask folks, "Hey, how are you doing today? How was your night? Hope you slept well, right?" And I realized that I said it one time at work, and the person was like, "Why do you care to know about how I spent my night? That's personal." I'm like, I didn't realize that's a big. It was like, no, that's a personal information. How are you concerned about how I spent? I'm like, my bad. I told my friend was like, Femi, you don't ask that here. Like, you don't ask how was your night. It's weird. It's creepy. And I'm like, okay, my bad. So that was a culture shock for me. So
That's funny. Yeah. Okay. So in Nigeria, did they ask how was your night and what did you do? What's the idea?
yeah, so basically the idea of asking, I think it's more of a contextual thing, right? So if a Nigerian asks you how was your night, basically they are just what they're trying to say is that hope you had a restful night. Like, did you sleep well? Did hope you were refreshed over the night. You get what I mean? Not necessarily asking you the details of what you did over the
Okay.
night, right? But asking a Canadian that they'll probably tie me to you asking them, tell me the details about your night. Right? So
Yeah, I mean, the normal Canadian definitely would like, whoa,
yeah.
whoa, whoa. What are you trying to get at?
Exactly. So I was like, okay, I learned that. So I just kept my greetings high level. Oh, yeah, just kept it high level.
That's funny. Okay, this happens to me and a lot of people as immigrants. Did you have issues spending money when you moved to Canada?
Oh boy, that was crazy. I remember coming in, I saved some money, and I really said, yeah, I'm gonna ball. I got money. And then I came in and I went to store. I'm a big fan of shopping as well. I like to shop for shoes and whatever it is that makes me look good. So I went for shopping with my folks, and I kept looking at the prices of things, and I had my phone with me and kept on doing the math. Okay, how much is this in naira? I'm like, shoot, this is expensive. I'm not buying. Like this is $50. That's almost 20,000 naira. No, it's too expensive. I can't do that. So I kept on doing that. Then I remember my folks telling me that you gotta calm down, right? Because like even though the rate is different, but you got to think about it. Going back to what I said earlier about mindset, you got to look at it from this way: you're not earning in naira, you're earning in dollars, right? So it's only fair you spend a dollar. So looking at it that way, because the the spending is relative, right? Not that I'm earning in naira and I'm spending in dollar, right? I'm earning in dollar and I'm spending in dollar. That's so in that case it evens out. I'm like, okay. So it took me a while to really blend in, but I was at the beginning I was so frustrated. I was like, because the money I brought in didn't even spend. I blew everything off in like 2 months, and it was a lot of money. And I'm like, no way. So, but yeah.
Yeah, that's it. To be honest, even I've been living in Canada for almost 20 years now, right?
Wow, wow.
And I still have that. If you tell me, oh, the haircut is $50, it doesn't mean anything to me.
Right,
And I'll be like, okay, it's 50. Well,
right,
okay, we'll pay
right.
50 then, you know?
Yeah,
Like, 'cause but there's some people like, oh, that's expensive. I
right.
don't know if it's expensive, to be honest.
Exactly.
I just like, okay, that's 50 is 50.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever get to that spot that like, oh yeah, that is expensive. A little bit. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, if it's like, I don't know, a pair of shoes and it's
Right.
like $200. Okay, bro.
Bruh.
I know it's
Easy.
expensive. If it's like 130, 120, that's good. But 150 is 200 is too much.
Right.
I mentioned it earlier that you're a photographer. How did you get into photography?
Good question. It's a long story, but I'm gonna keep it short.
No, no, we have time.
So I remember one time while I was working in the tech organization I was working with, and my contract was over at some point,
In
and
Lagos?
in Lagos,
Okay.
and I needed to put food on the table, right? And just also to be responsible and just being, just gotta find a way. We're in Lagos, right? So before I left, I bought a camera, because I used to, there's a cousin of mine that likes to take photo. So I use this camera back in the day. But when I was able to afford one, I bought one for myself then, because, and I just started taking photos, you know, and I now realized that at some point, I really do, I was getting patronized by my friends, and they were paying good for it. And that was the token I needed from God that, okay, Femi, there's something in this for you. You don't have to make it a hobby, right? You got to take it a top notch, a notch higher. So I now, of course, YouTube University is what everybody. So I went to YouTube, I started learning. Then I also volunteered to serve in my local church back in Lagos. So I worked at the media team. I was in the photography unit. So pretty much that means I handled camera at least once a week, which is every Sunday. So I take photos, and from there, I started, getting much more. From there I literally just fell in love with photography, because and that was also an avenue for me to capture moments, to meet new people, and initially started off as a documentary photographer. And what that involves essentially is going to different streets in Lagos, just going on the road and just, documenting stories of people, people doing different stuff on the streets, and, the busyness of Lagos and all of that. So that really formed a good foundation for my photography journey. Because in itself, photography, it's storytelling, right? You're telling a story. That's the essence of photography. So starting off as a documentary photographer or street photographer, they are pretty much different, but they're similar. Starting off there was, really helped me to have the mindset that whatever genre of photography I'm doing, I'm still telling story, right? I just got to be able to tell a story that is sincere, and that really captures the essence of the subject that that I'm telling the story about. So yeah, that was how it started.
When you're walking around in Lagos, were you scared that someone's gonna rob you and take away the camera?
Yeah, so Lagos is a very, like I said, is a hustler, is so taking photos in Lagos, it's not for the faint-hearted. So, and because there are a couple of people on the street that are, they are really, it's not even a conversation of consent, right? It's just a matter of people don't like the fact that you just take photos on the street, because they feel like maybe you're going to report something about them or whatever. Like people just don't like that fact. So I've had myself and some friends work in the street, and our cameras got broken and just got destroyed by folks because they are not very comfortable with that. So taking photo on that street, you gotta be tough, And you've got to really, you know, have your but one thing I also learned before I left, because I'm not sure if I know you'll probably get to that, but I did an exhibition, I think two exhibitions before I left, and one of the projects I did involved me going to certain streets in Lagos. But one thing that I saw that really worked, things are getting better now. One thing I saw was that I was able to get permit from folks around. So getting the permits was very important, and that helped to solve that problem of, so meaning that if you want to take street photos, you just got to find a way to get the right permit and make sure that folks are aware of what you're coming to do before you get there, right? So when they see you, it's not strange to them. So, but else, it's not so fun. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned exhibition. One of them is the air pollution in Lagos.
Yes.
Those are
Yes.
beautiful. I saw one of them and I love the composition
Oh, thank you.
and the color.
Thank you.
What made you think of doing the project?
Yeah, interesting. So, sometime, I think, trying to remember the year now, was it 2017, 2018? So, we had a master class with Canon, the same popular Canon. So, Canon invited a couple of photographers, just some very few of us. Like, I think we were like six or thereabout, for a master class. And the goal of the master class is to, introduce us to some Canon ambassadors that are doing amazing work around the world. Just get us, you know, a notch higher in our career as photographers, right? So it was a very interesting opportunity to learn from great people that work for Canon, and they are Canon ambassadors. And after that training, or that master class, we were given a project, and the goal is that we were asked to do whatever we wanted to do, but something that solves social or economic issue across the country or the continent. Just telling a story that will really bring about a narrative of what is going on, and how the government or whoever it is may be, provide solutions to such. Then I remember just, brainstorming with my coach to say, okay, what exactly can I come up with? And I realized that one thing that is very common across the whole of Lagos is air pollution, right? And reason for that is because there are a lot of industries in Lagos, a lot of manufacturing industries, and he felt at a point that the air pollution is a big deal, but maybe folks are not paying good attention to that part. So that really drew me to, just going there to tell the story of how people, different spots in Lagos where the activities are going on, and how this has affected the lives of the people. So that, just creating that awareness would also, because a problem you don't know, you cannot solve, right? So I swung to action, and, went to different parts of Lagos where we have these industries, and just sort of telling that story of how that is contributing to the health hazard, across the city, and also taking photos of a couple of people that are impacted by this as well, and of course that helped to create awareness for the exhibition itself. And I think there are a couple of images that we came out from, with that session, and I think it was a successful one. And my other colleagues exhibited on different topics and whatnot, but I think overall, we all had good experience, through that workshop.
How did they choose you?
Yeah, good question. So I think I'm trying to remember the way that came about, but I think basically the criteria for those that were picked was essentially, they were on the lookout for folks that have really done some good work in the community, in terms of their storytelling so far. Not just because it's a master class, right? So it was expected that those that it chose were those that are already in the field of photography and already doing their stuff. So the master class is just to get them to meet other guys that have been much more in the industry for longer years, much more experience. So it was essentially just, And I think one thing that was also helpful was that I kept putting the work out there so people know exactly the competence and the skill that we have as photographers. I think those were also very essential to the choice that they made.
Did you apply for it, or they just like know you through like reference?
Yeah, I can I think I think we submitted. It's been a long time, but I think we submitted images at some
Okay.
point to, and I think we also added a social media platform. I can remember vividly how. I think that was a couple of years ago. I can't remember how the criteria was determined, but for sure there were a couple of panel from their side as well that that decided on those that really they felt would get the best out of the session. So
You mentioned earlier that you have a coach. Has
yes,
he is he this person has been the biggest influence in your life?
yeah. So a different part in my journey, I've had different. Currently, I have a coach, I have a mentor as well in photography. The coach, she's based out of Kenya. She's a wonderful person, and of course, she taught me a couple of things back then at the master class, which I still hold dear to my heart. And I think one of such is that when you're telling a story, you you gotta make sure you tell it from a sincere heart. Like don't manipulate the story, don't make it look good, tell it the way it is, right? Don't, because storytelling essentially is that you're communicating what you're seeing, right? And I'm not telling the story for the audience to, like, I'm not trying to control the emotion of the audience. I'm just trying to tell the story the way it is. So the emotion the audience is feeling is up to them, right? Because you see some images, someone may see something different and other people may see something different, right? Which is perfectly fine because we all look but see differently. It's a natural thing. But as a photographer, my job is to tell the story the way it is, no filter. And I remember my coach telling us then that when you guys are going on the field to take these photos, don't rely on post process for the photo. Do not rely on post process because whatever photo you're taking, you're going to be exhibiting the photo. You're not going to mess up with the angles or put colors or whatever it is. You're not going to use any software for post process. So make sure that you get it right in the camera. That's what she says. Right out of the camera. So I remember taking those photos. The mindset was that you just got to make sure your setting is right and make sure the picture, you get it right out of the camera. So, of course, I also have a mentor in Nigeria, one of my folks back in church then that really was a good influence. And also our friends around. Now, since I moved to Canada as well, I've had to meet a couple of other photographers across the world. But I would say my biggest, like a mentor that I'm yet to meet, Lindsay Adler. She's a fashion and portrait photographer she's based in New York City. Hopefully, we'll meet sometime, sometime later in the future.
Definitely. You said about editing and filtering photos. How much editing do you use when you take pictures? Do you not use anything at all?
Yeah, so I edit my photos, but if I'm taking if so it depends on what I'm doing, right? So if I'm taking a documentary photo, if I'm doing a shoot for the sake of documentary, I may not do editing with that, right? Or I may just do a minimal edit, right? Or not even do edit at all because you want to make sure you present the photo as is. But if I'm doing other work like beauty, fashion, portrait photography, or every other form of photography, of course I would have to do some editing. But the editing I also do in my work is it's minimal in the sense that I try to still make sure the subject is still recognizable, right? I don't want to edit your picture to make you look like it's not you. So whatever editing I do still, I try to keep it very simple and I'm minimal so that in the process of editing, I don't want to lose the identity of the person in the photo.
100%.
Yeah.
Do you ever did wedding photography?
Yeah, yeah. I think if you ask every photographer at some point in their life, they shot weddings. However, the way it turned out, either good or bad.
Mhm.
But I did a couple of weddings. I've been doing weddings as well in Canada as well. I just gotta put out more work out there so folks see the gallery of for my wedding portfolio. But I've been doing weddings. This year was pretty busy with weddings, almost through the whole summer. It was to but I do weddings as well, and I think it's so interesting because wedding is storytelling. You're telling story. Wedding is documentary, right? So takes me back to the foundation of documentary photography, which essentially is very key to every photographer out there to really know that part of the work because that defines even your style, the way because you know, taking a photo of a wedding, you would know that there are certain things you have to pay attention to, and you are telling a story right from when the bride or groom is getting dressed to the details of what they are wearing to when they get to church. It's a progression and it's a story. So it's essentially that's the way it goes for wedding as well. So.
How do you deal with difficult people?
Yeah, so I think one mindset that I have is that everybody, when a clients pay for a work and they have the right, every right to be to have their opinion because he who pays the piper they take the tune, right? So I always come from the point of empathy, right, for my clients because I also know that if I pay someone to do something for me and maybe they don't do it up to my taste or the way I want it to be done, I'm gonna be concerned, right? So I treat my clients in that way such that even if when they are concerned, if they're concerned, we always have to talk things to know, okay, what exactly is the issue, right? What exactly is the reason for this thought? Is it something we can fix? So basically, just coming from that point of empathy to also know that even of course we know that there are certain times when now, but to answer that question also, I also want to add that that's why contract is very important. As a business owner, as a photographer, you got to be able to have contracts when you're doing work with clients so that every terms and conditions are stated in the contract. So if anything happens, you know that you're covered with the contract, right? And if there's anything that is not in the contract that is an issue to the client, then it's going to be a different conversation entirely, right? So I think having contracts also as a photographer also helps to really manage all of those things that may arise, based on clients' complaint.
Can you think of like a moment, the craziest thing you ever experienced during a photo shoot?
Yeah, it's still fresh in the memory. I remember one time in Lagos, right? Because pretty much in Lagos, I transitioned from different genre. I did documentary. Then from there, I went to fashion. I did some fashion photography. Going for runways and fashion shows and taking backstage and runway. Pretty intense stuff, but that's what I love, right? I like it, and my favorite part of that is going backstage and shooting the dress ups of the models, so everyone yelling on each other, and different wardrobe malfunction, like things that just happen at the back. That's really where I get the energy because anybody can take runway, right? But backstage is where the soup is really being made, right? So that's where I like to be. So I remember one time, I think it was a Lagos Fashion Week, in 20, that should be 2018 or thereabout. I was at the backstage shooting and everything, and because my camera is a touchscreen camera, right? I didn't realize that my body was touching the touchscreen, and I formatted the card.
Oh no, dude.
Right in the middle of the show. I lost it. I lost it. I was like, this is not happening. I literally was just I didn't even realize I had formatted, like I was just checking some of the typical you want to check some photos. So like I had completed the backstage, I went to the runway just to get set and everything, and I was like, no foul. What? no file phone on memory card. I'm like,
Oh.
what on earth is going on? Then, but I in every situation that I find myself, I always try to keep myself calm, knowing that once so far I'm alive, there's always a way. Like when there's life, there's hope. So I just try to calm myself down. But I didn't shoot with that card, so I removed the memory card from the camera. I used another memory card to continue the shoot. I stayed that through, then I left. Then I called some of my folks, my friends, and were able to get a software to recover the files.
Yo, no
Yes,
way.
that was what really saved me because I didn't know what I would do because those files were very very important, backstage stuff and and these things it's all about the moment. Once the moment is gone, it's gone, right? I always tell my folks that my other photography colleagues that one mantra, one thing I also keep very important to my heart as a photographer is that if you snooze, you lose. Moments are happening, especially when you're shooting weddings or fashion show or whatever it is. You can recreate moments, right? For example, kiss the bride. If you miss that, you miss that. Like there's no way. So you snooze, you lose. So essentially that was one experience that was very tough, but thankfully I was able to find a solution to it after the show.
I like what you said there that the moment's gone, the moment's gone. There's a quote from Wayne Gretzky,
Yeah.
the hockey player, but a lot of photographers use it now.
Yeah.
You know what the quote is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to say it?
Oh, which of the codes?
The quote is, you miss the shot that you don't take.
Oh yes, that one. Yes, yes. You missed the shot you don't take. Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
I love that quote because I dabble with photography as well. Not as high level as you, obviously, but I do all right,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm more of like an Instagram photographer. I do like street photography, but I focus more of like nature or normal things.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Speaking of fashion,
Yeah.
Vogue Italia contributor,
Yeah.
big deal. How did you scoop that up?
Yeah, I think I remember one time a friend of mine, also a photographer, I saw on his portfolio, on his Instagram page that he's a Vogue Italia contributor. I'm like, how on earth are you a contributor to Vogue? Vogue Italia, which essentially it's a Vogue Italia contribution. It's like a platform where photographers get to upload photos and once the editor of Vogue, they see your picture as Vogue worthy, they now publish it on their website, right? That's how you become a contributor in a nutshell. So, and I was asking him, how on earth did you do this? Then, I remember my friend saying that, Femi, you have what it takes, right? Essentially, what you just have to do is to make sure it just feels like, you need to know how to speak the language, right? You need to know how to create the aesthetics that really speaks to what is needed, right? And if you're able to do that, then you surely get it. And I think what I now did was, I remember one time I was just thinking with there's this agency I used to collaborate with before I moved, and I reached out to them that, okay, I got a concept in my mind, in my head, I really want to paint out with my camera, and we fixed the day. We hit up, we went to the studio to take photos, and right there and then I was like, okay, this is gonna make it on Vogue. What I'm looking at here, we're gonna make it on Vogue with this. They were like, really? I'm like, yeah, we're gonna do it. So we started the shoot, and thankfully, as God will have it, we made it on Vogue. And that was the beginning. And afterward, I've done a couple of other stuff. Like I have a couple of photos in there in the portfolio, but that are approved, and essentially that's how you become a contributor. Once you have your images approved and published by the editors from Vogue, and that makes you a contributor to the platform as well.
Do you get paid for it?
No, there's no payment for it.
Okay. They'll use your photo that could, put your name out there, but they won't pay you for the photo.
Yeah, basically, I think the concept behind that is essentially, creating a community for photographers to really show their work and help to promote their skill, and also help them to, a point where they are known by brands. For example, if you want to approach a brand tomorrow and say, okay, I'm a Vogue Italia contributor, and that goes to show that, okay, for Vogue to have been able to use your work, it means that you really know your stuff, right? So that in a way, it just feels like having a community of photographers and elevating their talents and helping them to be able to approach bigger brands and even Vogue itself. I like this friend of mine. I think he has done something for Vogue after that as well, officially something bigger for Vogue. And of course, that wouldn't have come about if he didn't have like good record of his contribution, in the community as well. So that's essentially the picture.
Did they send you a certificate saying that, hey, you're officially a Vogue contributor?
Oh no, there's no certificate, but once you go to your profile, you're gonna see there that you're a contributor.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, you've done documentary and you've done fashion. Which one do you prefer more doing?
I think I would say both of them are documentary, right? Fashion also is documentary, but documentary in an organized in an organized context. That's fashion for you. So if you ask me what's the difference, I'll just tell you fashion, whether it's wedding, whatever it is, they are all documentary. But now in a context where you have things arranged, for example, for wedding or for fashion, okay, the runways, this is the plan for the runway, this is the plan for the backstage, the makeup is going to start at this time. Everyone is at the backstage doing makeup, changing to dresses. Different fashion houses are having their models go out there to work on the runway, to go back to change, and all of that. All of that is happening. All of that is planned, right? So the documentary aspect is, as a photographer, you're just there documenting everything as is happening in real life, in real time. That's the documentary, right? But as the other documentary photographer, whereby it's not in a fashion show, it's just the regular one, you're still doing documentary, but now you're just telling the story as it's coming to you on the streets, right? So nobody is telling anyone to pose on the street. It's natural, it's out there, so you just got to go there. But in case of fashion, folks are putting an agenda around stuff, right? So at the end of the day, both of them are still documentary, but I think I just love documentary at the heart of, that's the core of photography. So that's part of it is what I really like. So regardless of whatever it is, I'm still much more in tune with documentary as the foundation.
Going back to your Vogue Italia contribution, I love the concept that you did.
Right,
The
thank
black
you.
man and the albino man. The face.
Yes.
Did you have to find these people, or you mentioned that you were working with some agency?
Yeah, it was through the agency. So it was through the agency that we got to collaborate, and I think the idea for that concept was just to tell a story of people. I think the title of that image is Unity, and the idea for that is to say, regardless of your skin color, we're one. Like, what makes us human is not the melanin or whatever it's on that skin. What makes us human is the fact that we're human. It's as simple as that. Whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're regardless of your skin color, right? Our humanity is not defined by our skin color. So we have to be united because we're humans. So that was the concept of that. And of course, the models that I used, that we worked together there, they're from the agency. So we just it was but of course, before the shoot, I had sent out a mood board because my style, I tried to work with a mood board to sort of have a concept that we're
What's a
going
mood
for, and
board?
we were able. So basically, a mood board is a compilation of different ideas or different how you would want the picture to look like at the end of the day. It's like saying, okay, this is how this picture should really come out, right? So for example, this is the outfit the person should be wearing, or these are the accessories, this is the backdrop color, this is the posing style, this is the lighting style. So a mood board is essentially saying that, how do I envision the outcome of the shoot to look like? So that's what you send a brief to the folks to say, okay, so that they have an idea of the creative direction you're going with the shoot. Then we jumped into the shoot. So the mood board was essential in guiding us to know what to do and what not to do on the shoot. So
What? how did you come up with the idea, I'm going to take a black model and an albino model? Because that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I think the whole idea started from the concept of unity. I wanted to paint a picture, I wanted to tell a story that essentially paints that picture of unity regardless of your skin color or the pigment under your skin or whatever. And of course, so a way to do that is to say, okay, regardless of whether you're an albino or you're black or you're white or you're Indian, I just sort of use those two personas to represent unity, but I might as well have used different persona as well, right? It just feels like I just sampled and used two personas to say, okay, these are two personas, even though their skin color is different to the eye, but the common base we have is that we are human and we need to be united, right? So that's essentially what I used to paint the picture. And if you see the posing style, the way they were posed, you could see the hands even, going underneath each other, just to tell you that, and that's essentially unity. It's not like they're apart, they're like interwoven, right? So that's telling you that regardless of or your skin, we are one. Sort of, it feels like one hand is hugging the other hand, but it's coming from different bodies. So essentially, that's just painting a picture of unity.
That's beautiful, man. When you have a session, a photography session, do you come up with idea, or is the model or the customer comes up with the idea?
Yeah, so pretty much before every shoot, of course, I like to talk to the customer to really understand what they want to do, because I believe that if I know the mindset or the concept the person is working with, that's when we can create images that would really, make the clients happy about the job, right? So I typically will have a debrief with the person, the customer, to know, okay, or the model to say, okay, what concept are we working with? And essentially we just have a mood board to say, okay, these are the ideas I have. Let's create for example, Pinterest, as simple as that. Most of the time, my Pinterest is a place to go for me. So let's create Pinterest and let's add ideas of what you're looking at. Of course, we are not gonna do like a copy work from Pinterest, but what we're doing is just creating a vision that we can use to create our own stuff, right? So we're not gonna do exactly what we see on Pinterest, but we're gonna use that as a board to step up to create something new for ourselves. At least we have a vision of what we're looking at, right? So that's what I like to share with my clients, and we get on the same page before the day of the shoot, so that when we get to the studio or the location, we hit the ground running, because there's we have in mind. We'll have taken into account things like the accessories, the makeup, the kind of makeup we're doing, the kind of lighting I'm gonna be using for the shoot, the hairstyling, if it requires that. So all of those different details are the things I have to check off to make sure that, okay, we're good to go for the shoot.
Definitely. Listen, man, this has been such a great conversation, and you've been so generous.
Thank you so much.
But I think we're there. But before we close out, one question for you.
Sure.
What lesson has your work life taught you?
Right. I think one lesson I've learned a lot of lessons, but I'm just going to highlight a few. The first one is that whatsoever you're doing, you gotta believe in yourself, and you gotta keep it going, right? I remember starting off as a photographer. I wasn't doing it for the money, right? Even though money is good. But one thing I tell my students, because I also have students that I teach photography, one thing I tell them is that if your goal is to make money first, then don't go into photography. But if you're doing it for the love, the money is gonna come. One of my students, she was like, "Oh, I've invested a lot in this few months. I haven't made a dime." I'm like, "Do you know when I started making money?" I didn't make money the first year. I'm like you gotta start somewhere, right? Like doing stuff for people and just to get yourself out there as well. So one thing I learned there is that if you have a dream, it doesn't have to be photography. Whatever dream you have, it's valid. However crazy it may sound, however non-conventional it may sound, but your dream is valid. Your dreams are valid, and I'm a testimony of that. And also, you got to be consistent with whatever you're doing. Consistency is key. Talent is not enough. Consistency is what really makes talent to stand out at the end of the day. You can be as talented, but if the consistency is not there, people would not know, right? So it is the consistency you put in with your talent, and that really makes the work speak for itself at the end of the day.
Wise word from a wise man. Again, Femi, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me today on the show. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, thank you. Have a good night.
And you too. Bye.
Bye. Thank you again, Femi, for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, listeners, for listening. This is Aaron Deliosa for An Immigrant's Life. I'll see you guys later.